So let me welcome all of you to yet another episode of Chat with Matt. My goal is to come up with speakers who have something to say. Many of them I've not met, but in this particular case, Michael Goldberg has spoken at my meeting in Connecticut a few times. This is a copy of his book. If you go out to his website, I believe he has two other books at least that you can buy. Michael's passion is boxing. As you know, mine is sailing, but I've gone a few rounds with him before. I know some of his weaknesses, so hopefully he won't be able to lay a glove on me, as they say. I generally let all my speakers do their own introductions because I've been introduced many times and it always gets butchered. So I'm going to spotlight Michael now and let him introduce himself to you. And we're going to ring the bell and start the conversation. So Michael, the show is yours. Welcome to Chat with Matt.
Well, I appreciate being here. Good to see you, Chat with Matt. That almost rhymes too. And here's the thing, I'm just gonna load this up. I have absolutely nothing interesting to say. So we're starting from square one, right there. Boom.
Oh, good. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you into boxing? Maybe that's a great place to start.
Well, good. Well, so my name is Michael Goldberg, and I am a little Jewish guy that boxes. It doesn't, although I'm not all that little. Some might argue I'm not all that Jewish, but anyway, I've got a company called Knockout Networking, and really what I do is I help sales producers, typically financial brokers, advisors, agents, and others within the financial services industry grow their business through networking or referral marketing. I've been at that for 20 years, and my brand is about boxing. And what I love to say is that networking like boxing or boxing like networking is about the connection. Because in the ring, the more and better connections you're going to make, the more chance you're going to actually make contact with somebody and probably win the fight. And it's the same thing if you're in business and you're looking to bring in business. The more and better connections, you're going to probably win that fight. And the same thing goes for those that are job seekers, those that are in between careers. The more and better connections they're going to make, they're going to win that fight, hopefully. The whole boxing thing just kind of started going to my gym many years ago. And I remember being hypnotized by a guy jumping rope. Like I was signing in with my card at my gym, and I remember hearing like the tick, 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 tick of a jump rope on a mat. I looked over, and there's a guy jumping rope and kind of doing the do-si-do. And if you've seen boxers jump rope, they look quite beautiful doing it. They're very light on their toes, and they've just got the head going back and forth, and it's just beautiful. And so I was caught with that and thought, I don't really know how to jump rope all that well. I want to go talk to that guy, and I want to learn how to do it. And I'm pretty outgoing. Those that might know me, I'm on stage, I'm outgoing. I love speaking to people, but I got to tell you, I was shy about going up to that guy and interrupting his workout and asking him if he could teach me a tip or a trick about jumping rope. And that took me 2 weeks to come up with enough nerve as I swiped my card, looked at him, left the gym, swiped my card, looked at him, and finally walked over to him. And I introduced myself, and he seemed kind of annoyed. I was destroying his workout, but we ended up connecting. And that connection turned into an introduction to a guy that trains boxers who taught me how to jump rope and taught me how to box. So if I didn't go and make that connection with this guy I'm going to call Dan because that's his name, none of that happens, and knockout networking is probably not born. And by the way, I can jump rope in my sleep right now. But don't we all leave opportunity on the table every single day? And I mean every single day, especially as a job seeker, as somebody that needs to make connections, by not taking the chance and introducing yourself or asking a question. So boxing, like networking, truly is about the connection. And are you willing to make them?
Yeah, I think a lot of people hesitate to network. As I say about myself, bashfulness is not my strong suit. So, I try to, when I'm at a networking event, I do reach out and shake people's hands and say hello and ask what they do. And I think that was one of the messages when you presented at our Westport chapter, that you have to have some things, some conversation breakers.
Well, yeah, you definitely need some openers, so in boxing, the opening round is usually kind of a get to feel, one another out. I think when you're networking, I think you got to lead with the right, or if you're a lefty, lead with the left. I think you really have to, I don't mean in an aggressive way, but I mean in a connective sort of way. So people are automatically drawn to you and it's easy and kind of fun.
Yeah.
If I introduce myself to somebody and say, hi, my name is Michael, very nice to meet you, I might open with, may I share a quick story with you? And I'll share a 1 minute, probably no more, story about something that I think is interesting that they could potentially relate to. And I'll say, isn't that interesting? Have you experienced something similar? Now, all of a sudden, I've created this opening where it's hopefully comfortable to go back and forth. There's no pressure, no problem, no searching for questions. You're automatically creating a light sparring match in the form of a collaboration.
Sure. And now that we're in this virtual world, I was sharing the story with you earlier about I've been to 2 ACG virtual events. That's the Association for Corporate Growth. It's a middle market M&A organization. And actually, it's almost better being in a virtual world. There are people, and this is really where we come into your story for today, which is our new virtual world, how you make those connections. I found it very helpful that I have 2 screens, and I had my address book on one screen, and I had tabs open on LinkedIn, and I had a tab open on the ACG membership database, so that all the people who were in this meeting, I had the opportunity to look them up while I was standing in front of them. I've always thought of doing something like that on an iPad, but you really can't be quick enough. I type 90 words a minute, but I'm really slow on a phone or an iPad. But now that you're now educating people in this virtual world, tell us some things you're doing.
Well, almost all my work was in the financial services industry, and the focus is now knockout approaches to virtual networking. So what's happening is I'm in front of the Prudentials and the Thrivent Financials and the Morgan Stanleys of the world. But here you have financial advisors that already had a difficult time getting FaceTime with people and shaking hands, kissing babies, getting appointments, all of that. And now in the whole virtual world where it's very compliant and technologies have been intimidating, not to all, but to many, it now became yet something else to, to deal with. So I'm talking about, yes, still making the connection. Networking is the same from the standpoint that you're connecting or you don't connect, but how do you make that happen virtually? How do you leverage LinkedIn in a more better way, Zoom in a more better way? And how can you create that collaboration so you're still getting appointments to network or potentially to sell, depending on whatever the premise of the meeting is going to be. So I've got all of these approaches that are compliant friendly within the financial services industry. And my goal is to get as many financial advisors through my daily fight plan as possible. Because if they're working a daily plan every single day and doing their 5 revenue producing activities every single Monday through Friday, how can they not make more and better connections? And it's the same thing if you're a job seeker. If you're a job seeker, it's really about getting into the habit, the daily habit, Monday through Friday at least, and getting your revenue producing activities in, getting your sparring in. So you're leveraging the technology and making the connections that you need to, and building the confidence and the habits as part of just a daily routine.
It must be quite a sea change for these people who are used to going out and meeting people, shaking hands, instilling confidence. They must be having a lot of trouble. Are you encouraging them to do Zoom meetings or telephone calls?
I'm encouraging Zoom because I think that anything displayed is half sold. So I think if you're going to get more of a better feel for people when you see them and you see their mannerisms and their gestures and their energy and eye contact and how they're dressed and how their office or their background might look. Are they engaged? Are they focused? Are they multitasking? Like there's a lot of things that you can really determine by seeing people. You also get a sense by how comfortable or how tech savvy they might be as well, which I think is not the end all be all, but it's certainly yet something else that we tend to look at, determine, and assess for sure.
Yeah, well, in the world of business, we're expecting people to be tech savvy. For the field sales organizations that you're coaching, a lot of their customers don't even feel the need to be tech savvy.
But it gives an advisor or a broker something else to talk about. Like if they're looking to make a more and better connection with a prospect or even a client, especially somebody that may not be as tech savvy, what a great opportunity to formulate a better connection with them if you can teach them how to be that. So teach them about how, Peggy and I went back and forth about kind of our visuals here and what that looks like. But can you imagine like if an advisor was doing that with a client or a prospect and saying, no big deal, I'll get you there. I'll help you with that. You see the little video on the bottom and the ba. It's yet another reason and another way to make somebody feel more comfortable, teach them, and create more of a rapport.
Yeah. As you know, I have a search practice, and I've been doing this for 20 years. Almost all my work has been done over the phone. I've almost rarely actually gone out to meet people. And now I had a client in Cody, Wyoming, of all places, a repeat customer, as a matter of fact, who I had never met in any way. I hadn't Skyped with him. He was in Los Angeles. I haven't Skyped with him. Suddenly, I had him on Zoom. And the reason I had him on Zoom was he was interviewing CFO candidates, and I wanted him to be able to do this personal Zoom connection with them. So I had to show him how to use Zoom, to your point. It's a pretty cool thing to start the bond of friendship, if you will.
Yeah, and also make people feel a little bit more comfortable and say, you know what, it took me a while to take to all this stuff. No problem, this is easy. I'll talk you through it. And if you can create that comfort level, you can use the technology as a basis for establishing, even a stronger rapport.
Yeah, for sure. What kinds of startup questions do you think people should be doing on Zoom?
You mean to start a conversation?
If they're networking, let's just people are networking and they've made a connection and say, well, instead of a phone call, why don't we just do a Zoom call?
Yeah.
And actually Zoom is so much more efficient than having somebody come up to your office where, you have to serve them coffee, you have to go to the coffee room. This is pretty efficient.
Well, I always start with questions about them, and they're always open-ended questions. I'll often share a story. Lately, it's like a funny tech story or something that happened that I think people can relate to. Listening to somebody in a meeting that was talking for a minute with like the mute on and not even realizing it until, hey, which is kind of funny. Like we could all relate to that.
Yeah.
Or I told a story. I probably won't tell it all that well now, but Matt, you and I, we've spoken about my dad. My dad is 82 years old, a bit of a curmudgeon, kind of a bitter, angry, retired police officer guy. And recently, losing my mom, he's even more so. Well, he was on a FaceTime. This wasn't even Zoom. This is like a FaceTime on his phone with one of his cousins, who is also older, probably, upper 70s. So they're both kind of struggling with the technology. And my dad, being as tough as he is, they finally, hang up and they end their FaceTime. And, he says something out loud to the effect of, man, she looks terrible. And then he's startled, and the woman on the other end, I guess my cousin, says, Jerry, I can still hear you. So he never hung up. She said, we're old. We all look terrible. So he brushed the whole thing off and thought it was funny, told that story, not realizing what a horrible thing he said. But isn't it funny how the technology kind of got the best of him? That's a pretty funny story at the end of the day, outside of what Cousin Judy feels like, but we can relate to different technical mistakes that perhaps we've made online.
I'm sure everybody remembers the story about the open mic from Barack Obama.
That's right.
How embarrassing. This is someone who should actually know better, right? And so it happens to everybody, I think.
Yeah, but if you can create a story like that people can relate to, and it makes them feel comfortable, it's funny, educational, inquisitive, reflective, that's a nice way to start connecting with people. Then after that, I would just ask them questions, So tell me about some of the things you're focused on right now. What's your business like? How has your business changed over the last months? What have you learned from the experience? What's important to you that wasn't important to you, let's say, a couple of months ago? How has your family life changed as a result? Are there new skills that you're learning? Are there new activities that you've taken on? So I'll start asking open-ended questions that are very much a sign of the times. And I know that I've got a good rapport with somebody when it's very much about, how about yourself? And we end up going back and forth and exchanging some of these niceties. And as the conversation goes on, it'll be a little bit more specific around either work-related or search-related or whatever that might be. And in my mind, it's always very we-focused. Like it's always very, how can we help one another? How can we refer one another? How might we be resources with one another? And if there's a great connection, it's kind of ending the meeting with an action step in mind. So Matt, it probably makes sense for us to speak, over the next month. Let's set up some time to reconnect and see if we can work on some of these things. And here are my promises to you. So now we kind of exchange promises, commitments that we might make, and action steps that we might take. So that's not in every meeting, but it's in a meeting where there's an obvious connection, obvious rapport, and it's evident what we might be speaking about and how we might be able to help one another. And I think it's the next step and the next step after that, and how you might stay in touch, collaborate, help, introduce, connect one another. That's really where the magic happens. And when you start getting into the later rounds where it just starts to flow.
Yeah, your point about open-ended questions is an excellent one. As you know, my wife is a speech pathologist, and she lectures me about this all the time, to never ask a yes or no question. If you ask an open-ended question, people will answer it. If you ask them a yes or no question, the classic one in my mind is, do you know about any open jobs? People immediately say, well, no.
Yeah.
Where do you go from no?
Yeah. But the whole thing is you want to get people talking, and you want them to feel comfortable with you so they open up, because it can be an awkward thing, right? So you want to have an open-ended way about you, so it's a back and forth. And I think if you're easy to speak with and you're making it easier for others to connect, more likely that you're going to establish a rapport, no doubt about it. This doesn't come natural for everybody. But my aim is, when I'm speaking to people, is I want to make the conversation as comfortable for them as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Just once you get people started, they talk to you. And I think we can complain all we want about the new world condition, but this whole Zoom thing, where everybody's been forced over a very short period of time to get comfortable with it, it's just gold. It's so much better than just a phone call.
Yeah.
Phone calls are so, well, first of all, I've developed a slight hearing loss. When we're on Zoom, I can read your lips.
That's right, yeah. Or you can follow the text. I see a question coming in. It looks like Joyce has asked a question. I guess it's directed to me. Give it Lars a little bit. Yeah, right. So how do you track your commitments from networking meetings to be sure that you follow up? So when I make a commitment to somebody, I write it down right in front of me. Like, I'm usually taking notes when I'm in meetings anyway, for a number of reasons. Number one, it shows that I'm paying attention and engaged and enrolled in the discussion. But the other reason is so I remember what to do. I will often write it down, and then I'll commit to a deadline. Once I put that deadline down, I will now put that in my calendar. So if I commit Peggy that I'm going to provide an article on whatever the topic is, not only does that go in my notes, but it goes right in my calendar. I commit to an actual time frame, usually a due date, and then it goes in my calendar to make sure that I hit that date. Another question is speaking to or speaking with. The latter is a bit more interactive. That's right, Lavelle. And the whole point of the whole deal is that you want it to be interactive. You don't want it to be about one person or the other person. You want it to be about both of you. It's got to be collaborative, way more fun. Think of the conversations that you have with people that you know, that you really like and enjoy being around, and it's easy. It's automatically collaborative. It doesn't take work. But when you're getting to know somebody, the work aspect of network becomes prominent. And it does take work to get going until you get going. Yeah. There's a Cindy comment. I also love, you can see facial expressions when on Zoom. Absolutely. So there's yet another aspect of connecting with people.
The client I have in Cody, Wyoming, just the fact that we actually had a Zoom meeting and I got to meet him, and he was in his office in Cody, Wyoming. And I could see in the background all the things that interested him. I thought that was really cool, because I never get this dimension from most of the people I've done business with over the last 20 years. So pretty cool stuff. So you were saying, I know most of your financial advisors, again, do face-to-face. I was intrigued in your book that some of them have difficulty networking.
Yeah, well, without a doubt. You mean that the advisors have difficulty networking?
I know someone who was a financial advisor many years ago, and what his wife told me was, we were good friends with him, members of our congregation at Temple Israel, as a matter of fact, that he was terrified to present in front of a group because all he really liked to do was one-on-one meetings.
Right. Well, perhaps the basis of that is that advisors are conditioned and taught to sell. Talk about assets under management, talk about products and services. And when it comes to connecting or presenting, maybe it's less about that. So maybe that's part of that. The other thing is that advisors are not typically conditioned to network because they're so product or service focused rather than focus on how we can collaborate. But when they meet with people, they assume that they're prospects, when in reality is they're really not.
Yeah, we have. If you haven't talked to them yet, I was CFO or financial person at a couple of field sale companies with large field sales organizations, and one of the things that someone who was training the group said, well, he referred to that as throwing up on the customer. You have so much product knowledge, and you start there, and it's wrong. To your point, you don't want to start selling to someone unless you know they're open to listen to your product presentation.
Without a doubt, you got to create the openness. I see a question from Lou with an L-E-W, which is kind of a cool way to spell Lou. I like that. Done a great job presenting what you need, but for job hunters and for financial advisors, how do you find the people to network with virtually? Well, you might be able to find them virtually. That, LinkedIn, right? If you have a target market. So if you're a job seeker, let's sort of put it there. If you're a job seeker and you have a target market, hopefully you do, that reflects your industry, profession, market segment, niche, dynamic demographic, geography, you consider that in your advanced search and you look for people that are in your target market, not to sell, but to network with. You might reach out through a direct message on LinkedIn and say, hello, Brad. It looks like you and I are both focused on the manufacturing industry. Would love to connect and explore ways we might help one another. Are you game?
Yeah.
And you put that out there. So that's one way of connecting with people and starting to connect with those that you might want to engage in a Zoom meeting. And another way, which I actually prefer, is looking at the people that you already have first tier connections with that might be in or have a dotted line towards your target market and see who they know that are in their first tier connections that are focused on your marketplace, and look to get an introduction into those that you think could help you and look to see how you can help one another. So there's only 180 million people on LinkedIn. Matriculate that to the geography, that makes sense. Matriculate that into the target market, makes sense. And you have all the people in the world to practice with.
Let's talk about this virtual world some more, because I think that's really where we're all living right now. And it's, when you're sitting in the house and it's dead quiet, it's kind of hard to get that energy as opposed to when you go to a networking meeting where there's people milling around, getting coffee, getting breakfast. It's kind of hard to, how do you get yourself tuned up? What do you do, Michael?
What do I personally keep all the things that I'm discussing on LinkedIn.
Better secrets here,
Yeah, all the things that I do on LinkedIn, a lot of it's that, but a lot of it is also that I've been niched in my marketplace for 20 years. So I have a slew of financial services professionals that are around me that follow me for my events and all that. But what I like to do is, and I give this tip to those that are job seekers, is come up with a top 50 list. Like this is something you can do tonight in front of reruns of Friends or in front of your favorite Netflix show, and come up with a list of 50 people that you think would be the best or are the best centers of influence, people that are in a position to refer you into your target market or towards your target profession. And those 50 people have to have a good to great connection with you. It's not people that you want to have a connection with. It's people that you already do have a connection with.
Okay.
Use your phone and come up with a top 50 list or as close to 50 as you can get. Okay. Those are the people that you want to reach out to once a month, like all 50 once a month at least, and create a touch point with and have what I call a we-based conversation. Brad, thank you so much for connecting. One of the reasons I wanted to speak with you is to, brainstorm with you on ways that we might be able to help one another. But before getting into all that stuff, how is everything going? Everybody's good with your family? How has this whole COVID thing changed the way you are focused on life, business, play, everything else? But you want to start to engage and have regular connections with the 50 most influential people in your world. And that could be through LinkedIn, but the goal is to create a touch point at least once a month. It may sound like a lot, but if it's collaborative and if it's we-based, it's not that bad. It's not that much. So if those 50 people are the people that are in a position to refer you most and best, why on earth wouldn't you focus on them?
Yeah.
And the goal is to create a touch point, a Zoom meeting, take a walk with them socially distant behind masks, maybe grab a coffee. You can do that right now in the open settings, right? So you can initiate some of these things, but create touch points. And again, keep the conversation very collaborative and we-based.
Yeah.
And when you network and you're getting more and better connections, the goal, at least my goal when I do this, is I'm always looking to replace my top 50. So if I have 50 people and I meet somebody that's in my target market that I hit it off with and is in my universe, and we just are going back and forth, and this just recently happened with 3 people. Those 3 people replaced 48, 49, and 50 just because of the rapport. And not to sound, bad about this, like it's almost like a mercenary, but you can't manage every single connection that you have. What we can do is be hyper-focused on the folks that are in the best position to help us and that we might be in a position to help them as well. That's very doable. That's very actionable. And that's something that can be worked on every single day.
Most of my clients are private equity groups, so I'm very focused on the private equity space.
Mm-hmm.
And my latest client that I'm working on an assignment for in Salt Lake City, after he gave me the assignment, I asked him to share any insights he had about what's happening in the private equity world.
Right.
And that was like a showstopper. He really stopped and he was thinking about it, and he shared some very important issues with me that I'm going to use when I'm marketing.
Yeah.
So if you take your 50 most influential people and you ask them a good question, a real question, not a made-up question, that builds the relationship. There's no greater honor, in my opinion, than asking somebody for their advice.
Sure. And it's a good practice to have questions written down or typed out ahead of time so you don't go into humna land, like what else should we talk about? So have an agenda, and as you're setting up a meeting, make the agenda clear and make it clear that it's about we. It's about referring each other, introducing one another, being resources for one another, and talk about how to be best prepared for that meeting so it's a good use of time. And that's the other thing. You want to always make these meetings a good use of time for both parties. And it doesn't have to be a party of 2 non-smoking. It could be a party of 3, of 4, or 5. If you're working through your top 50 list, why not figure out with whom needs to connect with who? Not everybody on that 50 list is going to know one another. All of a sudden now you can be that person that is running a networking meeting.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That if I tell people the 3 big things are networking, networking, and more networking, but there are 3 types of networking, in my opinion. One is saying hello to all your old friends. If you don't tell them you love them from time to time, as you said, your top 50, if you don't go down the list from A to Z and get down through that list at least once every 3 months, you're missing out. Number 2, you have to make new people. You have to meet new people all the time, because that top 50, some of them are doing things like retiring. I mean, really, I don't know what they do when they're retired, but that's another story. And the third thing, this is a great idea that you just came up with, which is pick a group of several people and schedule a Zoom meeting, because they should meet each other.
Well, think about that. That's not just about connectivity, but that's also just about math. If 50 seems like a lot of folks, then maybe, you do 5, a meeting of 5 a week, or 2 meetings of 5 a week. And all of a sudden you get through your math and you become the facilitator of a networking meeting. And now you can connect them with one another. Remember, it's all about the give.
Right. If you think about it, Peggy has a question here.
Yeah, Michael, I really think a point you made that's excellent is that whole idea of an agenda. Talk a little bit more about that, because I think with Zoom and whatever, I think an agenda has a lot more importance than it does otherwise. Would you talk about that?
Sure. Well, I think it's really important to have a structure to feel prepared, to be on target, make the best use of time, but also to have more confidence. I think as a job seeker, often in search, I think nerves get the best of us because on some level we feel like you're working, but I'm not. But if you haven't, you're still a business professional, no matter what, whether you're working or not, you'll be working at some point. You're still a professional. Nobody can take that away. To feel even more professional and maybe have an agenda together will make you feel much more focused. And there's a format that I like to use. I call it my punch format. Are you surprised? Punch, P-U-N-C-H. So right, P is, and you can write this down. I don't have a slide for this. P is your purpose. What's the purpose of the meeting? And not just your purpose, but their purpose. What is the purpose of our meeting? U is understanding, getting a better understanding of where we're at, both of us, or parties of five, or whatever it is, where we're at, and maybe where we're looking to go. The N is the networks that you're involved with. What are some networks you're currently involved with? And perhaps, are there opportunities for me to get more involved in those networks? C is a call to action. What's your ask? What are you actually after? And how can I be a resource in helping provide that for you? And the H is, how are we going to stay in touch? How are we going to continue to collaborate? What are our next steps? Put your punch model together or your punch card together, and you fill that out ahead of time. This way you are on track and you're likely to land your heaviest punch in making more and better connections.
Yeah. Junk call, the same junk call several times recently, and the guy says, because let's say I let the phone ring a bit, and he says, I was just getting my telephone voice message ready. Of course, it was a junk call. It wasn't really true. It was some kind of automated message, but I thought it was interesting that he was thinking presumably about that. And I think everybody in this world, when you're trying to have a conversation, you better have a plan, right? You better have a plan.
Well, it also makes the other parties feel so important. And I make it a point, and when I'm having a meeting like that, as I create an agenda, let me share it with you. I would love to hear your agenda as well. Make sure that we make the most use of time. Often I'll even email it ahead of time, just confirming our meeting. This is what I'm thinking our agenda might be. Let me know your thoughts to make sure we make the best use of time. Now it does a number of things. Man, am I coming across as professional, strategic, well thought out, and also that I'm being considerate of all the parties that are involved and that I want to maximize our time together. It makes everybody feel great.
These Zoom calls are very efficient. No travel time. You don't have to buy the other guy coffee. How cool is all of this? I mean, really?
Although you could buy the other person coffee through Starbucks. I made arrangements to have coffee for you.
That place called $5.
Yeah.
Now you can't even drive these places you're driving through if you're lucky.
Yeah, no, it's true. What I loved earlier is that there was some questions by some of the folks that were here. Does anybody have any questions that you want to post in the chat? If you want to practice that feature, I'd be happy to weigh in with whatever I can as it relates to networking, referrals, introductions, connecting, LinkedIn, Zoom. Let it rip.
Yeah, Zoom. Michael's been very kind to say he would stay over, even though he'd stay over for a few more minutes. So everybody should ask questions. Otherwise, we're going to just keep bantering. We're going to keep sparring.
I'll banter. I've got a good jab. I'll just keep it out there.
Yeah. So this is a whole psychological change for so many people. They're as much into a new world as we are. Those of us who have been used to going to in-person meetings are starting to get comfortable with this whole Zoom thing and how to keep the pace going in your own mind. I think boxing is kind of a psychological thing, right? So getting yourself ready for your next fight is very important.
Well, it's a fighter's mindset. I like to refer to it as a networking mindset. What I believe one of the biggest shifts might be since March 12th with the technology and everything else, other than all the technological challenges with wireless connection and maybe, those that have lacked the experience with the tech. is the fact that networking is way more intentional now. Like before, as you were out and about, you could meet people in a reactive way. That's much more difficult to happen now that we are online and doing a lot of Zoom stuff, which means that our meetings have to be much more intentional, which means that we have to be better at setting up our days to make sure that these meetings happen. So salespeople are typically really good at that because they realize they ain't going to sell if they're not setting up meetings. I know my calendar is slammed with 30-minute, station to station Zoom meetings. It is constant. It doesn't stop. But I had to create that to make that happen. Otherwise, a lot of that won't happen. And as a job searcher, you're in between successes right now. It's really about coming up with a fight plan. And we've been talking about some activities that you can initiate today, right now, that cost nothing, able to cultivate more and better meetings. So if I had to pick a takeaway, it would be that. It would be, you've got to be way more intentional. You've got to be way more proactive right now than we ever have been about making more and better connections in your industry, profession, market segment, niche, dynamic, demographic, geography. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think and there still are opportunities for virtual meetings. As I said, this HCG thing, there were 3 evenings. I missed one of them because I had a chat with Matt. But the other 2, I made it a point to just go to the networking session. A lot of people go to meetings to get educated. I just go to network. I nap during the presentations. No offense. I know you'd slug me if I slept through one of yours, but you know, by and large, these are really boring things.
Yeah.
You meet a lot of interesting people, and here, some of these virtual meetings that organizations are putting on now are pretty powerful, but you have to be, you can't just sit back and wait for someone to ask you. I went right in and introduced myself, and it started conversations. And in fact,
agreed.
a couple of them, I've gotten some industry insights. I just asked the question, so what are you seeing? Wow, again, I think the greatest honor is asking someone for their advice, right?
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. But you have to be prepared with those questions. And you also have to have the mindset of being open and interested enough to be able to ask those questions.
Yeah, not as opposed to on the phone. They can see you're not interested.
Right.
Peggy's been very active in her practice, and she had a client who was a broadcaster, and she referred to what in the industry is called, you always have to have a pleasant face, right? It's like Chris Cuomo trying to keep a straight face when Trump says something outrageous.
Right. A colleague of mine refers to that as a smiley face. Have smiley face or smiley eyes.
Not necessarily a smiley face, just a pleasant face.
Yeah.
Really? Did he really say that? You can't do things like that. So, but whatever. Do we have another question? Let's see.
And you are welcome, Joe. Yeah, the top. Challenge yourself to write that top 50 list for sure.
Top 50 list for sure. But has any? I don't know what a wedge interview is. Tom, you want to turn on your mic for a second and tell us what's
an interview while you're having like a chunk of salad with blue cheese and bacon bits on it.
Tom, what's a wedge interview?
I have been invited to a couple of interviews where the questions were interactive and open-ended, but it was an interview one way. And preparing for it was difficult, but it was the same kinds of questions. You know, what is your biggest weakness? You know, why are you in your industry? Things of that nature. So I'm just looking for, you know, outbound advice about anyone who's worked with that.
So what they did was they just videotaped you answering fixed questions.
Yes, and it's a company that does all this called Wedge something or other.
Okay, well, something new. I'll have to give that some thought.
But is the premise that it's a small wedge of time, that it's an abbreviated form of an interview?
Well, you can re-record what you said. But if anyone else on the call has experience, please connect with me on that.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah, and as you know, everybody is in the directory. So, and there's you can download a directory of the people who've signed up for this meeting by going out to our website. All right, so I don't like the meetings start on time, but they also should end on time. So I'm going to take over the screen. Michael, thank you so much. If there's some final comments you have.
Yeah, if I could be a resource to anybody, I mean, I love just talking about this stuff. You can certainly connect with me on LinkedIn. You just do a search on Knockout Networking and you'll find me. I love talking about networking, connections, job search, target marketing, referrals, all this stuff. Some of my favorite things to talk about other than the left hook. But certainly reach out to me. I'd love to be a resource. As Matt said, I've got a couple of books floating around. There's Knockout Networking. There's Knockout Networking for financial advisors and other sales producers too. That's the new one. Certainly you can relate to job searches with that, but I'm not here, I'm not here selling you. I just love talking about this stuff. And if any of my ideas can help you, certainly feel free to reach out to me.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Michael. It was very
Thanks,
interesting.
everybody. Good luck and keep the left up.
All right. So again, Michael, thank you so much for joining me for Chat with Matt. We're going to try to schedule even more interesting people, although it's going to be hard to top Michael. He's quite a character, and we've not only had him as a guest 2 or 3 times at our Westport chapter meeting, but I met him for lunch, and it's always an engaging discussion. He practices what he preaches, and I hope all of you have gained something from this conversation. Again, those of you who want to reach out to Michael, his contact information is in the promo piece. Go out to his website, buy his materials. He's got some, probably will have some webinars in this upcoming time as he's reinventing his business very seriously, because he did a lot of in-person stuff. So I want to, again, thank you all for joining me for Chat with Matt. On Wednesday, we have Nick Porcadolis, who's an old friend of mine. Of course, all my friends are old, but we won't get into that. But Nick's quite a character in a different way than Michael. And he's done a lot of very interesting things with the whole job search thing. So I hope all of you will sign up for that one on Wednesday as we ease ourselves into the July 4th holiday. And thank you again for joining me on Chat with Matt and showing up, most of you showing up on time. So how cool is that? So thank you. And anybody who needs me, I do actually answer my own phone. And when I ever get to it, I have 350 emails right now, but if you write to me, I will get back to you. So stay the course, keep on networking. It's the only answer. And hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday on Chat with Matt. Bye-bye.
Bye.